How is everybody doing? Let's go. Sure everybody can hear me. Can you guys hear me all right? It's been a while since we've had a stream here. Get this thing going. Get 1 second here. Let me pull some stuff up here. How's everybody doing? Got a lot of things that I've been saying, for a long time actually starting to happen. We saw the gold and silver thing just a week ago. It's getting very, very interesting here. These banks the like I said, there's no other way for this to end other than a couple ways, because in the end of the day, even if they take everything from us, then the banks themselves start to default. They don't have deposits, they start getting, defaults on all their loans, then they start to collapse, then they sit there and keep asking for more and more money, which eventually, like I said, they need an excuse to print. Yes, they can print. Yes, people can, give them a little bit here and there, but it's definitely getting very, very interesting here. So I'm just gonna let a little bit more people jump in quick, and then we're gonna get into this. But like I said, they're pushing a lot of this just down the road again. But problem is when you kill your middle class, you kill your lower class, you kill your GDP, you kill off all of these smaller mom and pop shops, you give these corporations tax breaks, you start to see that eventually it just doesn't work out. You're losing money too fast. Our deficit is growing too fast. Just went up 2.3 trillion in the last 6 months. This is not sustainable in any way possible. But I'll let a couple more people jump in here. Give me 1 second, then we'll go ahead and start here. I don't know if you guys saw the SEC new rule, but once again, you just find out regulators they're just there to help them. They're really there to keep them out of prison. They're not here to make sure everything's going hunky dory here. Yeah, I saw AA had a stroke. That's crazy. No, hopefully he has a good recovery. That sucks. My grandfather had a stroke and he ended up passing away from it. So they're definitely not a joke. My aunt had one and she ended up being paralyzed in half her body. They're definitely very scary. So wish all the best to him. But we're gonna go ahead and get into this now. I want to go ahead and start. So the SEC once again, the short sale rule that they would have to go ahead and talk about their short sale. Oh man, here we go. 1 second. There we go. Okay. So the two rules that we've been waiting for to implement. Sorry, my computer lagged out there. The two new rules that we are waiting for them to implement that should have been implemented at the beginning of this year once again got pushed back, and they're now pushing it back to 2008. This first rule would have went ahead and showed that they would have had to report all of their short positions on the form show. This was supposed to start in January. Now it doesn't start until January 2028. So again, all these guys coming in, all these promises on fixing the economy, affordability, releasing the Epstein files, taking care of corruption, getting rid of the swamp. The new SEC chairman saying he's going to be better than Gensler's already off to a worse start than, like I said, how do you get worse than Gensler? Gensler was the worst chairman I thought I would ever see in my entire life. But here we are. Corruption at its finest. Once again, Virtue got fined $2.3 million for letting people have access to market maker information. People that didn't even work at the firm were able to log into Virtue and watch live trades. And they were able to trade against live trading information. And all they did was fine Virtue $2.3 million. But so now what I was going to do is this was going to report, loans. This was going to report short positions, and now they went ahead and pushed it once again back to 2028 and 2029. Like I said, regulators are there to keep them out of prison, nothing more. But I do really want people to listen to this next part. I've been talking about a family office for quite a long time. I said a family office is going to be the end of it all. A family office is going to break, and it's going to set off a chain reaction, and it's going to happen in the private credit, and that's what's going to end up triggering molasses unless we all go ahead and pull out of banks and trigger some runs and make them trigger a lot of margin calls. Well, just last month here, I don't know if anybody saw this, but BlackRock is involved in a private credit firm. And they have what we call CLOs, which, once again, they're tranches. So basically the same exact things that were, if you guys want to read into this too, here, let me go ahead and post this article. This breaks it down very well, everything I'm going to get into here. Bacon Murphy is doing great. He's having fun. He was just playing in the snow yesterday. He's having a good time, man. He loves the snow, so thank you for asking. But yeah, he's doing great, man. But it said that all this is going to start in the back end through a family office, through this private credit stuff, because what the problem is in this private credit is there's really no regulation. There's not. They everything's just done between two private entities, and they're both like, yeah, you got me, yeah, I got you, and it's just trust. It's all trust. Yes, I showed you how they get around actually depositing collateral. They would sit there and sign those waiver agreements, and then once they would sign those waiver agreements, they only had to put down a 10% of their collateral agreement, and that was it. It was insane. So they're letting these people take these loans out that they definitely could not afford. But so going into this private equity market, this private credit market has ballooned to $2.3 trillion, and you're getting mass defaults across the board. This is exposing all of these defaults that are going around, and what they're doing, it's the same thing. They're taking bonds, corporate bonds, and they're putting them in trenches. It's just like it's a brand new version of 2008. They're taking all these corporate bonds, putting them into trenches, putting them with failing corporate bonds and really good backed corporate bonds, putting them in a trench, and they're selling them. Same thing, making brand new tranches. And what do you know? These tranches are failing. They're failing left and they're failing fucking right because mom and pop shops are going out of business. Everybody's going out of business. Middle class isn't spending money. Nobody has money to spend. Just what I told you, exactly what's going to happen. Corporations are going to start to go broke. They're all going to start reporting losses, left and right. Other than the mega corporations who are going to keep reporting unlimited billions of dollars, and if they don't make it, they're going to lie about it. Punch, man. I've been very busy. Got the kid. I've just been watching my son, man. Just been enjoying my kid a lot and watching. And I mean, I'm on Twitter every day. We're in the Discord. We do play stock plays. We just played CLSK. We bought that yesterday. It was at like 1340. Went up to 1511 today. I mean, GBTL, I believe it was. I'm still playing the market all the time, but still just don't have a lot of time to put a lot of videos together as much as I used to. But little man's over at my grandma's, so I just everything. I mean, a lot of people, I've obviously lost faith, but AMC, Highcroft investment, that's going to start to be paying off really, really soon. Like I said, the box office is coming back. We should have a great Q4 2026. I still believe we'll be way better than this year at the box office. We should be profitable in 2026. I still believe it, I still think everybody should vote yes. For everybody that's wondering, yes, I voted yes on all my AMC, on all the proposals. I mean, yes to everything. But back to this. So, because this is all insanely important right now. So they made all of these tranches in the back end because it's not regulated, you guys. There's no one back here watching these guys, okay? So BlackRock themselves ends up getting caught. What BlackRock has been doing is BlackRock has been waiving these guys' fees. BlackRock's been waiving payments. BlackRock has been moving numbers around from the good tranches into the bad tranches. They have been manipulating data. So these CLOs don't default because they have hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in these CLOs, and these CLOs are not backed by the collateral that they were supposed to be backed by. Now, if you read this, and again, go into, if I sent the link, this goes super into this data. If you read this as well, so what happened is they go ahead and they did a risk test for BlackRock, and they went and they did it in the private sector as well, and they found out that the collateral that was supposed to be put in for all of these CLOs is not there. It's not there. They failed the test. They failed the test. They failed the test in 2021. They failed it in 2024, and then they failed it again in 2025 in October. They failed at all of them. They won't tell you the loans. They won't tell you this data. They keep failing the test. They don't get punished for it, they just fail it. And what's going on is they're starting to look into this market that I've been talking about. You're starting to see cracks emerge. You're starting to see these banks that I was talking about, they're going under. They're being bailed out. They're literally being given waivers and this, because our entire economy at this point, any small thing, it is so screwed up. Any small thing is going to crash this. The problem is you have everything relying on old credit system, even the new system. Everything is dependent on AI. Everything is dependent on Nvidia. Everything is dependent on fraud and criminality. Now, you're starting to see, if you come down here, you'll start to see this guy goes into more things. You know, he talked about JP Morgan was bringing this up a while back. Janet Yellen brought this up a while back about the private credit. It was from a couple $100 billion. Now you're over $3 trillion. This talks about a couple, of these banks that have already been hit. You start seeing it. Blue Owl Capital has been in trouble. They lend out to a couple banks. It goes more into some of these banks. You got Tricolor, Tricolor had to they defaulted, and JP Morgan ended up writing off $170 million in its loan. So these guys are writing off these losses, and it's to the point where they're writing off billions and billions and billions and billions. But the problem is there's trillions in this sector. There's trillions, and they're all failing their stress tests. None of them are collateralized, none of them. And now they're failing. Now you are having tranches break. But the difference between 2008, they didn't give a shit when the tranches broke, because the difference was the people that the tranches were for in 2008 were you. So when they failed, they didn't care. They just got to take your assets and all your money, and it was good for them. Now the tranches are set up for them, and they're set up for corporations. They're set up for their business partners. So now, when those tranches fail, it hurts them, and it hurts their business partners, their relationships. Now they're panicking. Now they're like, holy fuck. Now they're seeing it happen, and if you read into this, it's stretching into family offices. Because what is happening is a lot of this is going into family offices, which is exactly what I've been saying. There's family offices out there that are over-leveraged 50, 100 to 1. Over-leveraged 100 to 1. And they're failing. On top of that, a lot of these corporations, if you read into this, a lot of these corporations that are attached to these CSLs or CLOs that are attached inside of these tranches are failing, and they're failing rapidly. A lot of them are reporting mass declines. Now what you're seeing is these blue chips on top of these are starting to decline as well. So now the blue chips on top that were supposed to support the whole tranche, they're failing. So what they're doing is they're waiving the fees for everybody. They're manipulating numbers to say, hey, they're paying the loans, everything's okay. It's way worse than people can imagine. It is way worse in this private sector than people can imagine. I want you guys to read this. This is happening massively with BlackRock. They have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that are defaulting like crazy. This is a massive problem. This is a massive problem, and it's going worldwide. This is a big, big deal. Said you can also read this article here as well. I'll go ahead and post this one as well. This goes ahead and this again. I've been going over this forever, and everything. Look at this. Everything is dependent on these AI bubbles. Now we're going to get into silver and gold with these banks, and what happened with the futures here, and what happened. So what happened was silver. I've told you guys forever. JP Morgan and the banking system does not want you guys to get silver and gold because you would destroy them. They have short positions. We've exposed JP Morgan's short position in gold and silver is bigger than their entire balance sheet. They can't afford their short position in gold and silver. They don't want them to keep going up. What happened when the futures crashed and they said, "Oh, it's just a data center." No. This was their equivalent of shutting off the buy button. Silver was jumping. Silver was jumping fast. And this is why I've told everybody you should be buying silver coins when this economy crashes. Silver, and they're going to start to see this. Silver is going to keep rising. It keeps hitting all-time highs. It keeps hitting all-time highs. And by the end of the year, it should be into the 60s. And I believe by mid next year, you'll be seeing $70 to $80, maybe even higher. What they're going to want to do is they're going to want to price out silver and gold from your average person. Right now, gold is priced out. Not many people have $4,000 to just drop on a gold, on a gold coin and put it away and go, yep, that's what I want to do. And silver is to where most people can still afford it. But the problem is, like I said, all of these guys have an insane amount of short positions in gold and silver because they cannot allow it to explode. Now, one of the things over here is they blamed it on Cyrus 1, on these data centers. Now, I want you guys to listen to all of this. It's insanely important what's going on in the economy and what's going on with AI and the fraud that I have been talking about for so long, because Nvidia's fraud's getting exposed, and it's not just Nvidia. AI itself is a scam. AI itself has gotten so much money funneled into it, and I'm going to show you why. All these people talking about the United States is bound to fail. The United States is bound to fail. The economy is at a loss. We're losing money at an insane rate. It's going to get... Something has to give. Now, if you look over here, it talks about, oh my god, we blamed it on Cyrus 1 data. They said that it was an overheating issue. It was a cooling system issue. And one of the things I do want to point out, these data centers... I don't know if you guys seen about the lakes. So all of these data centers are by lakes. They need a ton of water to cool these systems down, and these entire factories. These things are massive. Well, the problem is these things are actually evaporating lakes. And then the lake's gone, and they're pouring money in water, and now these data centers are trying to refill lakes with water, and it's expensive, and it's an insane process. And one of the things, the reason why I'm bringing this up to you, is one of the things that they're talking about with that new bill, and when what's his stupid name? Sam whatever, or whatever, the chat GPT guy. I don't pay attention to that guy, is an idiot. So what he's trying to do with his new bill is he wants for some funding to where they can go ahead and evaporate these lakes and then pay to get them restocked, replenished over and over. And that's with taxpayer dollars. That to me is insane. You're literally just evaporating lakes and refilling them. It's just crazy. But back to this stuff. So during this time, what ends up happening is the silver futures crash, right? The second that happens, in the back end, the biggest culprit in silver shorting, JP Morgan. JP Morgan, during this time, made 13.4 million ounces unavailable during the shutdown. Basically, it's no one can buy. Like I told you, no one can buy. Suddenly, all these people they're shutting down the ability to buy it, to obtain it. It's gone. We shut the buy button down. You can sell only. Silver sell only at this point. Crazy. Just as it was about to break the $60 mark, like I said, silver was exploding. They're shorted more than they've shorted any stock in the world. Silver and gold is shorted more than any stock in the world. They'll never expose it all. They'll never show you the true numbers, but they are. It is. It's beyond ridiculous. And on top of that, I've showed you the report actually just came out another month ago. I was going to pull that up, but I have so many tabs and so much stuff to go over. I don't want to keep going over 70 million things. We'll go more into it next time. What was it? Last October, so 2024 in October. They said that for every silver and gold bar that each bank has obtained through derivatives, every single gold bar has been sold 10 to 15 times over. So for every gold bar or silver bar, 10 to 15 people think that they own that same silver or gold bar. That's how many people they've promised the same gold bar to. Guess what it just jumped to? 25 to 30. They're saying that 25 to 30 people now, which, like I said, we'll break all this into next time. 25 to 30 people now think they own the same bar. 25 to 30 people. Imagine if they all went to go to that bank. Remember, this is the problem that was happening in Europe. All of a sudden, remember, Trump says, all right, I'm going to put tariffs on gold and silver. So what did they all do? You had all these people running in over at Europe, and all of a sudden they had to shut down the banks. They were having a giant crisis over there. Nobody could get anything. It was like a huge problem over there. They didn't have enough. All these people had to wait 3 to 4 weeks to get their silver bars and shit. But at that point, they're already tariffed. So what happened is all these people ran there. One guy got it. The other 9 had to wait a month. They all got tariffed, and then they didn't even get, by the time they got it, the tariffs were in, and they just put it right back in. It was ridiculous. Like I said, it's like the corruption worldwide around these banks, the entire system, the fact the whole world hasn't revolted is unbelievable to me. The enslavement, the corruption. We'll get into more of that, but we'll get into all this stuff. But like I said, so they shut the buy button off in the back end because they didn't want silver to keep exploding. So what else happened? So after this data center, crashes, and I want you guys to listen to this because this is insanely important if you live in the United States. This is why I say it's gonna fail. So what's happening over here is they need, most of these type of companies like CyrusOne, they don't go out and get bonds for survival. They usually have enough to survive, but they need it for expansion. And if they don't get the expansion, that is when it becomes survival. Well, one of the things is the CyrusOne needed a new bond. They needed to issue a new bond for $1.3 billion. They needed to expand. They needed to upgrade these centers that are breaking down. Well, they ended up issuing out a bond. J.P. Morgan, or was it Goldman? Sorry, Goldman? Yeah, Goldman. So Goldman ends up, issuing the bond out. They back the bond, and all of a sudden, after this happened, they look over and they say, no. They've paused it. Now it says that they've backed out. So they're backing out of the bond sale. They're no longer going to back it and be the underwriter and be the banker of this. So this company is now going to potentially be in some trouble. It's definitely not going to be expanding. It's not going to be getting any reputation anytime soon. But what they're looking at is going, all right, these data centers are insanely expensive. They're insanely expensive. AI is not growing at the rate that anybody thought it was going to. Because in the end of the day, ask yourself this. AI is what? It's basically just a smaller advanced search engine. In the end of the day, it's an advanced search engine, and it's not real AI. Because think about this. AI should be able to think for itself, not be told what to think. Elon Musk says this all the time. I'm going to upgrade Gronk because it's too politically right. It's too this. It's too that. I'm going to change the algorithm. So it runs off the algorithm that they want it to run and interpret. So in the end of the day, think about it, 10 years ago, if I asked Google something, and now I ask Gronk the same thing, you can almost get the same answers. One's just a little bit more in depth. But you can also see the difference between one showing me, look at these sites and all these things, and Grok, sorry, I don't know why that thing keeps doing that. And then Grok keep on, you can see it political influence and it's influenced by humanity. So in the end of the day, it's just a search engine with, you know, influence from Elon Musk. And like I said, I see him say it all the time. Oh, that's too right. I'm gonna change it. You're gonna change it to be politically correct with you, according. Well, then that's not true AI. So in the end of the day, what is AI? It's a way for tech companies. In the end of the day, it's just a way for tech companies to get rid of coders. See, here's the thing. I don't know. Okay, so like I'm about to put this out, and it's hilarious. I can just show you real quick. Like so, like no, I don't want to drop that in there. Here, hold up. Let me see if this works here. Okay, so I play this game. It's called Bannerlord, right? It's a pretty sweet game. It's an army game. I'm not even gonna get super into the game. It really doesn't matter. So I've never made. I've been a programmer before. I worked in C Sharp, HTML, SQL. So I mean, I do know coding. I can code by myself. I don't really need this AI thing. But I wanted to see what it was all about, and it's incredible. So I made this thing here, and this is a mod. So I mean, I'm sure you know what mods are. Mods are how you can change a video game. Now, Grok can't. I just figured I'd try it with Grok. Grok can't create files. Like it can't. Like you can't say, "Hey, create a mod for me, create the file, and then send it to me." It can't upload a file like that. It can't do that. It can't just create the mod. But what you can do is say, "Write the code for me. Write this for me. Write that for me." Does it in 14 seconds, and then you can actually have it go test the mod. So like it'll write this out for me. I created this mod for the game. It had nobody, only me and my brother play it. I should put it out for everybody. But what this is it's a full online. So the game, it has online, but like it's like a whole different game. It's like a whole different stupid thing. I absolutely fucking hate it. But with this, I told it to write this. Write the C Sharp for me, write the XML files. You can ask it what it needs. I created this mod, which would have took a long time. I mean, I upgraded everything in the game. I could go on and how much stuff I changed, but it's irrelevant. Just think, this would take a person. It probably would have took the game company months and months and months, maybe even a year to even just make this mod. It took me 15 seconds of just writing, asking it the same thing. That's the best thing for AI right now. Other than that, nobody cares. Because in the end of the day, there's how many free AIs out there? That's what I want people to understand. There's so many free AIs out there. So you just saw 3 days ago, I can't remember what company it was. Was it Microsoft? Somebody was reporting that their AI sales are plummeting like crazy. Well, of course they are. Nobody cares. You can go get a free one, and companies themselves aren't going to go buy an AI model. They can just use a free one. Unless they're like, there's no point to doing this. And this is my point. What I'm trying to get into here is they're now starting to see these data centers as, all right, they're not this foolproof plan. They're not this foolproof thing. They are losing value. If AI doesn't return the value, these aren't as valuable as we think they are. Well, if you go over here on top of that, U.S. electricity bill is now increased 11% in Trump's term. And I showed you in certain cities with these new data centers, it's gone up to as much as 256%. Now, why I'm bringing all this up here and with the AI sector and with the United States before we get into Nvidia here, if you look over here and talk about AI, it says JP Morgan calls out AI spend. It says 650 billion in annual revenue is what AI needs to make just to give them back a 10% return. So in the end of the day, the more they look at it, it's like, are we really going to make as much as we think off AI? No. Because it's so limited. It is so limited to what it could do. And on top of that, you have so many companies just giving it out for free. So they're looking over at, they're saying, hey, like AI is not going to make as much as maybe people think. And then you look over here and it says AI is currently losing money. It just need if you look over, they just constantly need hundreds of billions of dollars. They need government subsidiaries. They need money every way they turn because again, they're just burning cash. OpenAI needs to raise 207 billion by 230 so it can continue to lose money. Most US now, if you look over here, it says most US growth is now riding on AI growth. Harvard Economics found out that 92% of US GDP growth in the first half came from AI. So what ends up happening if you get an AI bubble? And the thing that's giving all of your economic growth goes away or gets destroyed or comes to a complete halt. Well, what's happening on the back end? Tariffs cost company $1.2 trillion this year, mostly hitting consumers, and the other thing it's hitting that people aren't talking about is mom and pop shops. Mom and pop shops' bankruptcy file hit an all-time high. They're getting crushed from tariffs. Big guys the competitions are getting stomped out by tariffs. Why? They don't care. Because the big guys are doing what? They're cutting deals with the government to not have to pay those tariffs. Meanwhile, those tariffs that were supposed to help the U.S. economy and help manufacturing, U.S. manufacturing activity is now contracted for 9 straight months. So in other words, manufacturing is plummeting. Manufacturing is going down. GDP is going down. AI is starting to not be worth the dollars that they put in. If you look over at the national debt from yesterday, we're at the $38 trillion, 38.425 to be exact. If you look at the start of Trump's presidency, he has now added $2.3 trillion to the debt so far. And that means, this year's not over either. Which means by the time his presidency's over, he's going to add about $10 trillion to the debt. What's $49 trillion by the time the guy leaves? So, at this point, your GDP is getting dismantled. You are now relying on AI, which is kind of maxing out and it doesn't cost bang for the buck. Problem is you have so many people invested so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars in there, they can't say, oh, well, we tried. Nope, you're stuck with it. You better pray to God it works. Well, the other thing, if you look over here, the deficit's growing. October, the U.S. budget deficit is higher than it was during COVID. Congratulations, Trump. All that winning, you did it. Our deficit is now higher than it was during COVID. Because we're not collecting money. On top of that, you got rid of taxes on tips. Companies are collapsing. Nobody's spending money. Again, so what does Trump do? What's Trump do during all of this? Well, he does what anyone that doesn't want to tell you the story does. The U.S. third quarter advance estimate GDP report canceled. They canceled the job report. They canceled the inflation report. Now they canceled the GDP report. They basically canceled every report that would tell you the numbers. They don't want to tell you the numbers. Crazy how the time that they're not going to tell you the numbers, it's because they're the worst in history in every single metric. People wonder why I say I hate Trump. Because he's a fucking lying sack of shit. All he ever says is, oh my God, the country's doing great, but every single metric, economic metric, every single one is the worst it's been in fucking history. Meanwhile, he's charging you guys a tax called tariffs, which is destroying mom and pop shops. It's killing them. It's destroying them. Do you give a fuck? No, you don't care. Mom and pop shops getting destroyed. What is he doing with that tariff money? I showed you guys what he's doing with that tariff money. I showed you. He's not putting it on the debt. What's he doing with that tariff money? Well, if you weren't listening, I'll explain to you one more time what the criminal's doing. So what he did is they killed off all those farmers. They started killing off farmers, and then he started letting off his buddies buy these farms. So as his corporations were buying defaulting farms, instead of helping the farmer that was going to default and give him that money, he waited till a corporation bought the farm, then he gave him that money from your tariffs. Then what else did he do? He gave him in those contracts, I showed you for fact, I proved for fact, contract budgets suddenly jumped. It was $4 billion less than how much he raised in tariffs. So in other words, what he did with your tariff money, he gave it to the corporations that were taking over farms. Then he gave it to people in government contracts. Those same people that got those government contracts, guess who they were? It was his ballroom donors. Corruption. Not only was it his ballroom donors, look who else got in on the pile. Right here. It'll take 2 seconds. Look who else got in on the pile. Oh, his own son. He gave it to his fucking kid. Gave it to his buddies, gave it to his rich corporations, and then he gave your tax money to his kid. Huh. Why do I hate the fucker now? It's not what I voted for. That's why. Alright, back to this. So, manufacturing's down. Tariffs are up. Mom and pop shops are going down. All of these people, you see all of these COL failures. You're seeing all of this back-end stuff. You're seeing banks now, which before I get into that, let me get into the Nvidia, because you guys have to listen to this. This is insanely fucking important. I told you guys when all of this was going down, when all of this stuff was going to start happening in the back end, and it's all happening in the back end, word for word what I said. You're going to hear about a family office in the next coming months, and shit's going to hit the fan. Michael Burry has been saying word for word over the last 2 weeks everything I've said. Everything I've said. He's even bringing up the meme stocks, talking about GameStop, AMC, all that shit. Everyone that has eyes can see what's happening. Just the amount of corruption that's allowing it is unbelievable. But what happened the other day? Nvidia got exposed. Nvidia scam got exposed. You saw Nvidia have a massive drop. It was hundreds of billions wiped out in a second. People couldn't figure out why, and an algorithm showed exactly what I've said. On November 20th, 2025, trading algorithms identified what may become the largest, listen to this because I've told you about the round tripping, I've shown you the accounting fraud, and I've told you the numbers are astronomical. I just didn't know they were this astronomical. Maybe the largest accounting fraud in history. Not in months, but in 18 hours, it ends up equaling $610 billion in accounting fraud Nvidia is pulling off in its round tripping scam. I'm going to say that one more time. That scam I've been showing you guys with the accounts receivable, with Nvidia giving these guys credits, with the round tripping with CoreWeave, with the other 7 companies that I've shown you that are now also investing into each other, because if one falls, the entire $610 billion scam falls with it. This is beyond insanity. Nvidia their CEOs have been selling off like crazy. Insiders have been selling off like crazy because they know it's going to go down, it's going to get caught, and this boom is going to go. AI's demand is going to drop because, again, reality is going to set in. We've done nothing but make a new fucking search engine. Nothing but make a new search engine. And here's the thing. AI is so good. So what's going to happen is all these tech jobs. So it showed. I looked at the economic data, and it said now that 25% of students that have a college degree are now unemployed. Of those 25%, listen to this number; it's astronomical. Out of those 25%, 13.4% are in the technical industry. So people that went for coding are all unemployed. Now, why are they unemployed? Because of what I just showed you with this mod. It took, instead of me needing 15, 20 coders, I need 5. I need 3. tech support. I only need 1 or 2 guys in tech support, because what's going to happen is I can have somebody call me. I can have somebody tell me the error. I can type into AI, this is happening in this database. What procedure, what table do you think is causing this error? It will pull up the code. It will find the table. It'll find the exact procedure that what data, what table it's pulling from. And it'll rewrite the procedure. It'll rewrite the data. It'll see what other proximity thing is not filling correctly, and it will fill it correctly. And it'll do it in a matter of 4 seconds. So instead of me needing all of these guys, that's what it's going to do. AI is going to end up revolutionizing tech, because you're now going to have companies with 10 people in them that can do the job of 30 to 50. You're going to have it involved in everything else, but it's still going to need a human to type the correct thing, the correct question, the problem into it. Or if the AI itself is incorrect, because still to this day, no AI is perfect. So, in the end of the day, it can only be good as the question asked. It can only give you what you ask it. So, it's still a long way away from like, all right, you can just have an AI data center run fully and it can run my software for me. But, again, what's going to happen, because I want you guys to listen before I keep going into Nvidia. Actually, I'll wait for a second to get to that. But when I say that, I mean, this should make you fucking so infuriated. It's not even funny when I get to that. So, what's happening now, you have Nvidia round tripping. You have all these people that I told you. Everybody's doing the same thing. They're all running to the same hill. They're all running to Nvidia, which is running a scam, which is running accounting fraud. They're all running to the same hill, thinking it's full of gold, but it's on fool's gold. It is a scam. It is a fraud. It is a Ponzi scheme. Now, if you guys look over here, this is the funniest thing ever. I'm going to show you some more reason why this is going to fail. Nvidia says that it's not Enron, so all of a sudden, this fraud comes out. People start going in, private credit comes in, private credit's messaging Nvidia, what the fuck's going on over here? Are you guys Enroning us? Should we pull out? Are we going to get fucked? Nvidia comes back and writes out emails to all these people. We're not Enron. We're great. No questions. There's no problems. We're not going to show anyone anything, but everything's fine. Okay. But then they don't answer any of the questions. They don't say, why is your accounts receivable up 590% in the last 2 years? Why are these guys paying you with credits of your own company, but you're counting it as cash because you're counting it as accounts receivable? You are giving them the product so that your demand goes up, but they're not paying you for the product. You're paying yourself with your own credits. It's a scam. We're not Enron. It's good to go. So they're sending out these memos, and all of a sudden they go, hey, by the way, that massive deal that we were saying that was going to save us, nobody signed it. We announced something that didn't happen. So now that deal's not out, the deal isn't signed. Hold on. Here you go. The $100 billion deal is not signed. The stock jumped massively on the news of this $100 billion deal. Nobody signed it. It's not even a deal. It's not done. Nothing's happened. No one cared. It moved on. Months have gone by and no one's... It's like Pam Bondi and the Epstein files. It's sitting on their desk and eventually they'll sign it. Oh, wait, they won't. But the stock still acts like they have the $100 billion deal in place. Fraud. Now, what else happens? Hold on. So this is 2 months after. And he talks, if you go into here and he goes, there hasn't even been fucking discussion about it since. No one gives a shit. They're at this point where they're going to get to the cancellation penalties. And they're going to have to pay fines to certain people and each other. Because it took too long and they're going to cancelize the fucking deal. It's unbelievable. Then what happens? Amazon unveils game-changing AI chip. Now they're saying that this Amazon chip might even start destroying Nvidia because it's less cost-effective than Nvidia's chips. So now if all of a sudden you have people running over, see, look at this. But the cost angle is what captures attention. An AI video generation startup is actively achieving 4 times faster at half the cost of a Nvidia chip. So now if you're starting a brand new company bringing in competition, guess what that's going to do? It's going to hurt Nvidia sales again. So again, everybody's on a hill full of fool's gold that has a $610 billion accounting fraud, that has a $100 billion fraud of a contract that's not actually signed or opened, that's about to get canceled, and they're going to have to pay fees. On top of that, like I said, if you come down here, they're not even looking at it. They haven't even talked about it. They don't care. Just let it sit on the desk. Then if you come down here, now they have brand new competition. And this is going to drastically hurt them if it's true. Michael Burry is talking about Nvidia. If you look at Nvidia's chart, you look at Cisco over here in 2000, they're nearly identical. The rapid rate, this is going to be the game-changing, revolutionary new product. It's going to change the world. AI is going to change the world. And it tops up here, and guess what happens? AI is just a fucking search engine. Well, we have 10 trillion sitting over here. Hopefully it pays off. But, by the way, we need you guys to keep donating hundreds of billions of dollars. They're still going to need another 600 billion over here. They're going to need another 200 billion over here. No big deal. Now, this is something I want you to listen to because it should infuriate you. This is unbelievable. National debt crisis will be averted by governments mobilizing and encouraging private wealth to fill budget holes. And if you read into their plan, it talks about he wants to tax wealth transfers, targeting the great wealth tax transfer of 100 to 124 trillion in inheritance. He wants to put a brand new tax on all your guys' inheritance so they can fill budget deficits. They want to take trillions of dollars out of your inheritances instead of correcting their spending. Now that they which I'll show you in a minute. Now that they can take it out of your retirement, but they're like that's not enough money. They now want to go ahead and tap into your inheritance. This is word for word his plan. He wants to tap into inheritance, putting in a new inheritance tax over decades, raising capital gains, or inheritance levies. He wants to make a levy on there to plug budget deficits without people getting mad. Hey, we got to tax your inheritance twice as much. We're going to have to tax your inheritance a mass percentage. We know that we taxed your parents their entire life on that money. Well, now that you get it because you get it from your mom, just because she died and left it to you, we need a bigger cut of that because we can't stop spending. Fucking insanity. And people don't care. Fucking insanity what we let them get away with. So now, you have all these problems, everything getting cancelized, and it's way worse than they ever let on. Anytime anybody brings up any kind of actual truth, what do? President Trump takes their fucking press pass and he kicks them out. He tells them they're fake news, or he says, I'm not going to answer your question, and looks to the next guy. So, 1 second here, I gotta sneeze. I didn't want to. Alright, I think it's gone. So, at the same time, why is GDP falling? Well, sorry, I had to sneeze. I didn't want to sneeze on. There you go. Alright, we're good. So now, if you look over here, at the same time GDP's falling, everything's good, and Trump says we're winning, you now have 1.1 million job cuts so far in 2025. Now, what's funny is you have the Republican news all saying, this is good shit. This is actually good for the economy. Listen to me. Job cuts so far this year are at 1.17 million. That is up 54%. So we imposed tariffs this year, and mom and pops and all these companies job cuts are at 54%. 54% because nobody can spend, everyone's broke, companies are going down. And Fox News is over here telling people it's actually a good thing. It's a great thing for the economy. It's good for you guys. It means that you guys can go ahead and it leads more competition, and it might raise wages. No, it won't. Nothing raises wages. We've learned that for the last 27 fucking years. It's been 50 years since wages have gone up. 50 fucking years. But inflation does. Corporate profits keep going up. CEOs' wages keep going up. Meanwhile, the same 5 billionaires tell you it's good that you're poor on the media and people eat it up. Now, at the same time, this is the most since COVID. So we've had the most job cuts since COVID. At the same time, guess what's happening? H-1B visas are exploding. Now, if you remember, not even a week ago, Donald Trump said Americans are too fucking stupid to run the machines. Americans aren't, you guys aren't smart enough. You're not fucking qualified to run the machines, so we need to bring in H-1 workers. Meanwhile, you see on the same Twitter that he talks all the time on, H-1B workers driving semi-trucks killing family members. So tell me why that H-1B worker, tell me why we needed that Indian guy over at Amazon. And if you guys look here, who has the most H-1B workers? Oh, it's Amazon. So tell me why Americans in Trump's eyes are too fucking stupid to drive a semi-truck. That we need to import some, Indian. I didn't know the Indians were great drivers when they're driving on the wrong side of the fucking road. I didn't know that we needed to import them over. It's just the constant same bullshit from the guy. Oh, we need to import these guys because they're smarter than you. Okay. Why are Americans stupid? Well, guess who makes them that way? The fucking system you guys built. But, so, the meantime, you're getting replaced. And they're saying that it's AI when you can look right here. I'm breaking it down in front of you. It's right in front of you. It's not AI. It's truck drivers. It's blue-collar work. The number one thing is blue-collar work. There is more Amazon truck drivers than the top 3 AI data people combined. It's all fucking truck drivers. It's blue-collar shit because Amazon can get away with doing anything. Because they're a fucking monopoly that runs the country and gets every tax break and does illegal shit. So now, you have 2,900 billionaires in the world. They hold $15.8 trillion worth of wealth. The wealth of the 50% of the global population. You now have 2,900 people having more wealth than over 4 billion people combined. We have let criminals make a financial system for the last 25 years that has made you a slave and has made you poor. Why it has enriched them in every way possible. Why they can commit crimes that you can't. They can commit crimes and pay a $3 million fine. Why if you did that same crime, you would be in prison for the rest of your life. Unless you go ahead and do that same crime and you steal $1 billion. You make sure you put hundreds of millions offshore. And if you put hundreds of millions offshore, you too, just like every other criminal over here that Donald Trump, you can go ahead and bribe Donald Trump and pay him. And Donald Trump will go ahead and pardon you just like he does everybody else that's a criminal. Just like he just pardoned a drug lord, but he told you that he's doing a war on drugs. The reason we're going to a war with Venezuela is because he wants their oil. It's the largest oil reserves right now. And Trump wants a piece of it. Meanwhile, Trump's over here pardoning people that do fraud. Look at this. This guy was prosecuted during Trump's presidency. He did $1.6 billion in fraud. Trump just pardoned him. Guess who's donating to Trump in his campaign and all of his other stuff? Oh, yeah. So, in other words, if you go ahead and steal enough, you can get pardoned. Just make sure you pay Trump a couple million. You're good to go. Now, back to this stuff. So, what's happening is if you look over here, there's 902 billionaires in the United States. They have 6.7 trillion in wealth. Now listen to this. Out of those 902 billionaires, 44 of them are their spouses have obtained state or federal positions. They work in the government. We do nothing but cut their taxes. We give them every leeway ever. They're allowed to create laws that make it so they can do criminal acts. We let them do insider trading. They're buying our government. and they are buying and stealing our economy. 44 of our billionaires work in politics, or have over the last decade. We are now letting politicians become career billionaires, doing insider trading, illegal things, taking bribes, taking sponsorships, taking donations through dark money. The United States that the Constitution was created for is no longer, it's gone. It's been stolen. Meanwhile, while you have all these billionaires having trillions and trillions of dollars, American household debt levels are now at an all-time high. This includes mortgages. Mortgages defaults are at an all-time high, debt level at an all-time high. Credit card loans defaults are now at an all-time high. Prices are at an all-time high. The amount of loans for car loans, student loans are now at an all-time high. So in other words, I told you, Thomas Jefferson said what? There are two ways to enslave a nation. There's two ways to conquer and enslave a nation. One is by the sword, which is communism, and the other one is the American way, is through debt. You do it in the back end, you stab the knife in their back, just not in their front. So in other words, your entire economy, your entire population is at an all-time high. People are in debt. People are struggling to buy anything. Affordability is gone, and that is exactly what Trump ran on, affordability. Now he calls affordability a hoax. Just like he called the Epstein files a hoax. But this is the problem now that you're having at banks. Banks are now running into nobody having deposits, and now people are defaulting on loans. Millions of Americans are now defaulting on loans. So what does that do for the banks? The banks go ahead and they run over to the CFTC and they say, hey, we need $22 billion. We need you guys to inject $22 billion. So what's the CFTC say? Sure, you know what we're going to do? Look right here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take it from our customers. So the CFT now, to open up some money, you could go ahead and post customer securities as collateral. Huh? You can now take your customer securities, you could take client and customer assets, and you can now post it as collateral with foreign banks. This will now free up $22 billion for you guys. Just go ahead and take it from fucking the people you're already stealing from in every other way. Huh. Byron, I'm glad you're making some money in Discord, man. I wish more people would join it and more people would, make some plays in there too. Everybody just kind of waits and watches for me. Discord's kind of quiet lately, but hopefully it picks back up here. So what's happening now is they go out and then they lie in the media. Trump lies about, oh man, everybody's fucking buying. Did you not see Black Friday sales? When reality, Black Friday sales broke at a record all-time high because costs were up. They showed less items were purchased. A lot less items were purchased. So in other words, people bought less stuff. Less people bought. The only reason it was up is because people had to pay higher prices. So in other words, they always spin it, oh, everything's great. No, people bought less stuff. Less people went out for Black Friday. Problem is Black Friday deals were now, the prices were before tariff costs. They weren't deals. It's just, hey, this is what we paid before tariffs. That $60 price that added on for fucking electronics, we take the $60 tariff price off. But you're paying original price instead of having that actual Black Friday discount. That's all it was. Once again, more lies. Now, what else is happening? You're now having people default. Well, guess what? U.S. foreclosure rates surged 32% year over year. Defaults are now happening. People are now taking homes. People are wondering why nobody can afford homes even after all of these defaults. Well, that's because 1/3 of homes are not being bought by institutions who are buying above ask. And what else happened? Right here. Why can't you afford houses? Fact that corporations are now buying 1/3 of houses and then jacking up the above ask and now doing jacked up rent, which is why rent is jumping higher than shit. At the same time, you had the Federal Reserve. Every single time you should have had, tons of defaults, tons of these mortgage-backed securities collapsing, banks taking hits on them, banks selling the houses at a lower rate, which would have lowered cost, which would have kept housing prices in the American dream where it should be, affordability where every American should have been able to buy a house. Well, you had the Federal Reserve. Ben Bernanke went ahead and bought 1.5 trillion backed in those loans, mortgage-backed security loans. So instead of those loans defaulting and the banks having to sell the assets on the defaulting loans at a massive discount, the Federal Reserve went ahead and bought 1.5 trillion in failing back mortgage-backed securities and made sure that the banks didn't have to sell off those assets. They could hold on to them now. They could suddenly sell the assets and not take losses. They could even charge more on those assets. So suddenly the American dream and the house of affordable house, affordability got stolen away by fucking the Federal Reserve. Then what happens? Janet Yellen comes in and buys another 177 back billion in more failed mortgage-backed securities. So instead of those fucking banks having to sell those loans off, guess what? Janet Yellen went ahead and bought them up. Then what happens? Jerome Powell went ahead and bought another 403 billion. So in other words, there's now over $2 trillion in mortgage-backed securities that should have failed, which would have lowered prices across the board. And instead they blame it on illegals when it was the Federal Reserve's bailing out banks once again, which is why today you can't afford a house. So, what happens at the same time? We're hearing that now they have to release the FBI file or the Epstein files. And what's happened? The FBI has now paid $1 million in overtime to redact even more files that they're going to release. So now what we're going to get is you had 2,000 agents over the last 3 months scrubbing Donald Trump's name and everything out of the files. And now they still didn't have enough time. They still needed to pay $1 million in overtime to more agents to redact even more shit related to Trump and other billionaires. So in other words, we're still not going to get anything. Now you have even more fun. The FBI is reportedly working with the Doge now to determine what they can actually release and what they can't. So now they're going to say, well, we can't release anything that talks about those billionaires. We can't release it. And if we do, we'll redact it. So more bullshit coming out. And everything George Carlin ever said to you guys, governments don't want a population capable of critical thinking. They want obedient workers, just smart enough to run the machines and just dumb enough to passively accept their situation, that they have been enslaved by the government, that they fucking fight tooth over nail, red versus blue. Oh, Democrats are worse. Oh, Republicans are worse. Nope, they're both piles of shit and they both enslaved you. And what happens now is they own the media that tells you, you guys, you don't want lower prices. You guys, it's actually bad if we get lower prices. You guys, it's bad. You guys, I'm telling you right now, and they say, it's good that you can't afford to eat. It's good for the economy that you can't afford to eat. Actually, today's food prices, they're a bargain. They're a bargain. They're a fucking bargain if you take inflation in. Instead of fixing the housing problem, let's make 50-year mortgages. Let's make them pay an extra $400,000 over their lifetime. What's the big deal? So again, in the end of the day, private sector's crashing. Banks are crashing. Lending's crashing. The commercial real estate's crashing. Silver was exploding and they literally had to shut the buy button off. So if you're still listening and not buying silver coins, I don't know what more I need to show you about silver. But everything's happening, guys. You can push, but again, bigger piles are coming at them, and they have to figure out new ways to sweep them under the rugs. And at what point does $70 fucking trillion end up needing to be exposed? So, I got a lot more stuff to go into. I got to get going here. I cut out a ton of tabs. I'll make another video here soon. If you haven't been playing any of our plays, if I have a sub on Twitter if you want to follow along with that. If you want to go into Discord, I tell you guys the calls I'm jumping into. GTLB are the last calls we got into. We jumped into CLSK. I post unusual trades, so these are trades that are out of the money. It's $5 a month. You can cry about it all you want if people are saying anything. You don't have to do it. You can go on Twitter for free. You can go on Discord for free too. Like I said, a lot of this you'll make it on one play if you're gonna cry about it. I post all my calls, you know, post some flows there. But if you don't want, like I said, you don't even have to do that. A lot of times I'll post that stuff for free too, or just join the Discord. But again, guys, patience is a virtue. Protect yourself because again, our GDP is getting worse. Our government's making less money. They're making more promises. People are going to keep getting hungrier and hungrier, and eventually people are going to wonder why they can't afford a fucking can of soup. So, everyone in AMC, GameStop, situation. Obviously, the company is fine. You have nothing to worry about. You're profitable. You're going to keep getting more profitable because he's going to keep investing in more financial, assets. He's going to keep getting, more treasury bonds. I mean, that's the thing with GameStop. GameStop has 0% of failing. I still like the stock a lot. AMC, you know, they're going to ask for more shares. Just be prepared for it. But again, we need to say yes. We need to say yes. One more, two more things he needs to do to get us back on track. The box office is recovering. But again, with him and his stroke, we'll see if he's even CEO next year. So, all these people that are praying to God he goes, we'll see what happens. But wish him the best of luck of health, full box office recovery. Does anyone have any questions in the chat? If not, I will try and go live again here this week. Try and go live again here. Maybe on Saturday or Sunday or Monday here. Little man should be gone those days. He's gonna go to his grandma's for the weekend. I got some stuff I gotta do in the wifey work, so I don't see any questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go, but thank you guys for listening. Like I said, guys, be very careful. Hope you guys join on some plays with us. Join the Discord. Like I said, if you want, join the subs. Make some plays, make some money in the meantime. But again, silver, gold, protect yourself. Be prepared for this crash. Burry sees it. Everyone sees it. The accounting fraud I've been exposing forever. I didn't know it was this big. But again, that Nvidia fraud's going to hit. And if these Amazon chips and everything else take off the way that they think they can, Amazon's in for a rude awakening. So, thank you guys for listening. Hope you have a good day. Tom, I don't like to give price targets. I'll let you do your own price target, my friend. But thank you guys for listening. Have a good day.